Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Beyond the ARC podcast. As always, I am Rob Howes alongside Austin Young. Austin, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Rob, but that's not Josh next to us.
That is not Josh next to us because Josh has unfortunately lost his voice. Can we get a moment of silence, please, for Josh? Thank you. Thank you for your moment of silence. Across the screen, we know it's a very difficult time, but we've got someone better. We have Tyler Johnson with us today. Tyler, only going to come in pretty much later on in the episode, but Tyler, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Rob. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Josh lost his voice by a game we were playing. I forget the name of it, but you pass ingredients, something co-op kitchen. Very fun game. We'll be screaming at each other a little bit more over that game probably later tonight. But
there was no class today.
Exactly, no class today. The snow day helped us get a little bit more time to get back to campus. But as for now, Beyond the ARC, we really have 2 weeks to cover, as last week was our Thanksgiving special. We really hoped you liked that episode. But let's get right into it. Austin, we're going to start off on the football side today. Yep. Because this is it for the American Rivers Conference on the football side. We'll still talk about it a little bit more for Division III. But first of all, first and foremost, Week 1 took care of business against Concordia, Wisconsin. And
as they should have.
Absolutely. And Concordia, Wisconsin was the home team for that one because they were a little higher in the RPI or in the NPI than Co. So they got the home field advantage. They won their conference. They were 9-1. I don't have a problem with that. But I think it just shows with the MPI, Co was the way better team.
By far.
All year long, 44-7. Funny story about that. I went up to Iowa City for the Iowa-Michigan State game last week. You were there as well. Yes. But me and my dad were out tailgating in a lot we've tailgated at for years. And there's one TV there on the back of a guy's truck. And we think, he's probably pulling up one of the big D1 games going on. Has 4 guys driving around and trying to get the TV to work. They turn it on, and of course, first thing we see, the Concordia, Wisconsin logo in midfield, and it's Co versus Concordia, Wisconsin that they are watching. That was so cool to see. I would assume Co alumni seem to be about probably upper 20s, and all of them were just sitting there watching the Co game, and that was really cool. And they won 44-7 over.
Yeah, but I was watching that game on my drive up to Iowa City with my dad for that Iowa-Michigan State game, which was a phenomenal game to attend. But then Co ran into a team called Bethel.
Yes, and Bethel ranked 3rd or 4th in the country, depending on what rankings you look at. And Co offensively, they played very well. A game where there's a bunch of snow on the ground in Minnesota. Co puts up 26 points against a very good Bethel team known for their defense. And I was thinking, okay, if Co can get above 20 in this game, they've got a shot to win. But it's still Bethel, and Bethel just 21 points in the first quarter, and they really didn't have a shot. It was 21-7 Bethel, and Co just ran out of time. They couldn't come back, and really what we expected. Both of us had Co losing this game on our brackets.
Yeah, especially with Bethel beating St. John's earlier in the year. That was a pretty big signifier to how legit that they were going to be in this playoff run.
Absolutely. We'll talk about St. John's here in a second, but how about the other American Rivers Conference game
this
week?
Unbelievable.
Wartburg, second, I believe, in the MPI rankings, takes on Wheaton, Illinois, and Wheaton really just had their number. The score of this game was closer than it actually was.
100%.
In my opinion, I was watching this. Wartburg offensively doing absolutely nothing in this game. One of their touchdowns was a scoop and score, or a fumble recovered in the end zone. And Wheaton's offense is fantastic. The least amount of points they had scored coming into this week in their last 5 games was 52.
Yeah.
And Wheaton's offense, we knew that they were that good in a snow game. Wartburg's defense has been the best defense all year long. When Wartburg gives up 28 points, they're not going to win many football games. And that is what we saw here, 28-24, a Wheaton win. And Wheaton will play, of course, as everybody expected, at home against DePauw University. I guess I'm not sure if that's at home, but it's not at Wisconsin Whitewater.
No.
That everybody thought it would be. And Whitewater, I had Whitewater taking on Wartburg and Whitewater winning that game in my bracket.
Yeah, so did I believe.
Either
Or
way,
I might have Wartburg going on. I don't even remember.
Wheaton and DePaul will be playing in that game. So that's one of the games, probably the least anticipated, but
probably going to be one of the closer games in Division 3 next week. Now we'll take a look at the rest of the bracket. Mount Union, John Carroll should be a good game. Both top 10 teams in most people's rankings. Mount Union is just a brick wall pretty much this year, however, especially for a team like John Carroll. Trinity, Texas upsets Hardin Simmons.
That had me stunned too.
Absolutely. I thought Hardin Simmons had a chance to win that one, take down Barry, who Trinity will play, who they had a scare against LaGrange, but Barry had the win there. I think John Carroll and Mount Union are honestly both better than Trinity, Texas, and Barry. So that's definitely in that quadrant, the bigger game.
And then that co-bracket, obviously Platteville went to beat Alma, and then I don't know if you had Lacrosse beating Hope.
I did have Lacrosse beating
I had
Hope
winning. I just thought that'd be a good game, and then obviously North Central was able to take over and beat Hanover in that game. So now they'll play Lacrosse. That should be a fun game.
I think that's just one of those that it might be close at halftime, and then Lacrosse is just gonna run out of steam. I think North Central, they are just have too much size. They're just too good. I think Platteville-Bethel might be the game of the week.
That's in Minnesota.
That
too.
is in Minnesota. Platteville, they played extremely well against Alma, winning 24-7. Another snow game there. Then you go to the other side of the bracket where Susquehanna versus Eastern. Susquehanna, that's probably the easiest game for any team. Eastern, I thought they'd get curb stomped by Franklin and Marshall, and they showed up. I believe they are in the third year of that football program is all at Eastern, and they win a playoff game already. So they will travel to Susquehanna, who just upset Christopher Newport. Salisbury, John Hopkins. I have Salisbury in the Final Four this year.
Oh, I have John Hopkins, I believe.
I believe it's either Salisbury or Susquehanna. I have them two playing, and then the winner of that one going on to the Final Four. Then up top, we talked about Wheaton DePaul, and then your opinion on the game of the week, St. John's River Falls.
Yes, that is going to be an unbelievable matchup. Obviously, River Falls went on to beat Chapman 58-7 in their matchup in the snow. Good win for River Falls. And then St. John's beat Monmouth 49-15, a game that I didn't know what the score would be. I just knew I had a feeling St. John's would win. And, I think this is the game of the week. Obviously, there is that North Central across Platteville-Bethel. That one's going to be extremely fun for sure. But I think our producer, Frank, talked about just going up to St. John's or River Falls, Wisconsin, and seeing that matchup in person. But we'll see what ends up happening. But overall, not a bad first couple of rounds. Obviously, tough break for Wartburg and Co. We knew we had a feeling Co would lose to Bessel, but Wartburg losing on their home turf was kind of surprising, but shows how good that CCIW Wheaton team is.
And I think it just shows that this year Wartburg's offense just wasn't what it has been in past years. Their defense has always been so good, but Wartburg's offense, they've been a lot better. They're never the best offensive team. Even in the American Rivers Conference, there's usually not a lot, but a couple teams that at least rival them offensively, and they win games with their defense. Can't do that against a team like Wheaton that you know is going to score a good amount of points on you.
And overall, like now that the American Rivers Conference part of the season is over, I kind of feel like it was a little bit of a down year overall for the conference. I don't know what you think, but because Wartburg was not as strong as they have been in years past, like when they make those Final Four runs. And then even Co barely snuck in, was beating Central at the very end. Otherwise, it was Central's to lose. But overall, conference-wise, I mean, obviously there's teams like Luther and BV and Nebraska Wesleyan who just, this conference is tough no matter what they're looking like. Obviously, they were somewhat improved. I know BV is starting to get up and up as far as like program, but then like Simpson obviously going 6-4, first time in a long time. But yeah, like I said, just overall kind of a down year, but obviously like you still have your big three, and that's still not looking like it's going to change anytime
Absolutely, and I think Co just got kind of unfortunate with who they had to play. I think Co had a chance if they would have played against a team like Wheaton. That's a matchup that suits Co a lot better than it suits Wartburg, because Co's offense was better than Wartburg's offense this year. And if they would have played
They
Wheaton,
just met that Wartburg defense, and yeah,
would have been a lot higher scoring of a game. So last thing with football, on the coaching side, Loris will be having a new head coach after Coach Helmeniak is gone from that Dewhawks program. Curious to see who Loris will hire. Still waiting to see who Nebraska Wesleyan will hire as well. But those are the two head coaching changes that we know of in American Rivers Conference football. And then going on from the football side, volleyball finishing up as well. Not too bad for the American Rivers Conference.
they just met some really good teams.
UD had the first round win over Cornell, ran into Wash U, I believe, and then lost that one. And of course, Co was trying to ride the momentum from the American Rivers Conference tournament, ran into UW Whitewater, couldn't take care of business in that one. So still a good season for volleyball for the American Rivers Conference.
Two-bid team for sure. Good season.
Yes. So now it's time for winter sports. And for winter sports, we'll start off with men's basketball. And on the men's basketball side, every team other than Simpson right now has a winning record. And that's very impressive for teams like Luther, sitting at 4-2, expected to finish on the bottom of the conference. They started out 4-0, then they've lost 2 in a row to Hamlin and St. Olaf. They did beat Emmaus in one of those games. So really 3-2. It's similar to when Simpson plays against Faith Baptist. You have to win those games as a D3 school. But Luther, really impressive. Wartburg has been
Wartburg's
very
looking
impressive.
very strong so far.
Their only loss to a decent Concordia, Wisconsin team, 75-80, so a 5-point loss there. They really have dominated the rest of their games other than St. Olaf early in the year. They took down Grinnell, a team that's never easy to beat, just the way they play, with the system winning 129-116 in that one. A low-scoring game for Grinnell in all reality. But Loris has started to play a little bit better after falling early to DePaul. They lost to Southern Indiana, but I believe that one was Southern Indiana is a D1 school, so that only counts as a scrimmage or an exhibition. So that one will not count. But 91-74 was that score against a Division I opponent. That's not bad at
They
all
have UNI coming up
for the Loris Dewhawks. Co has UNI coming up tonight. They're 5-1. Their only loss being in their last match to Milwaukee School of Engineering. They took down a couple really good teams up in Platteville, and they are arguably the best team right now in the American Rivers Conference. And of course, University of Dubuque still hasn't played anybody great, but they are undefeated, 5-0, the only undefeated team right now in the American Rivers Conference for men's basketball. So still a long way to go on the men's side. And Austin, what do you got for us on the women's side?
Yep. So overall, it's kind of mixed. We have like that cut right at here. Everybody below Buena Vista has a winning record. So BV, Loris, Luther, Central, and Co. all looking pretty good so far. Co is obviously, they have that one loss to Carthage, 51-60. That was in Wisconsin. But looking ahead too, I mean, they're going to play BV, and then they got Wartburg, and Wartburg is just not looking good right now on the women's side of things, sitting at 1-4 overall. 1-1 at home so far too. They've lost 4 in a row. So I mean, they had that home opener win versus Knox, and then they've lost to John Hopkins, DePaul, Wisconsin Lutheran, and Carroll so far.
And Wisconsin Lutheran, they are a ranked team. They were ranked 18th in the country until a team we expected to finish towards the bottom of the conference this year, the Loris Dewhawks. On the women's side, they lost to Platteville early in the year, who Simpson just lost to. Loris lost that one only by 2. They lost to La Crosse by 30. La Crosse, always a very tough team. They go and take down Wisconsin Lutheran by 3, as they were ranked 18th in the country. So Loris, probably the most impressive team in the conference right now. Central sitting at 4-2, really hasn't played anybody fantastic. They lost to River Falls, lost to St. Olaf by 3, took down North Central. I'm not sure if that's North Central Minnesota or North Central Illinois, but they won that one by 13. Either way, still a good win. But yeah, I think Coe's about to run away with this conference title lost to a good Carthage team, and that's their only loss. They don't have a really tough game coming up. They got BV, Wartburg, and Nebraska Wesleyan. Wartburg, we still don't really know how good they are, but they're not. They're
looking
struggling.
great. They're having a tough schedule, too.
Compared to how they have been in the past couple of years.
Yeah. And then for Simpson as well, I mean, they've had just a tough stretch of a couple games being so close. Obviously, that Eau Claire team is looking pretty dominant, I think, up in the YI. But then that tough loss to Platteville as well, and then St. Mary's yesterday. But they started off 2-0 against an Alma team, and then I'm not quite sure who they played in this tournament after that.
They then played Wheaton.
Okay.
Wheaton, and they dominated
Yeah.
both in that second game especially, but they played very well against Alma too. That game against Platteville was this past weekend, and their bus actually got stopped at the bottom of a
hear
hill.
about that, yeah.
And they had to march up the hill to get to the gym at Platteville. So interesting situation there. Couldn't take care of business out in Platteville, lost 2 games. Now they'll play against Loris on Saturday.
That could be fun.
First conference game, and it will be a very good one, I believe. So that's all we got for women's basketball. One more winter sport that we'll start focusing on a little bit more here. Really 2, men's and women's wrestling, but really on the wrestling side. And as we all know, the American Rivers Conference in wrestling is still dominant, and it will be dominant for a long time. So not too many duels for any of these teams, only conference duels for most of them. Outside of Luther had a duel that they lost against UW La Crosse 18-25, and it was Nebraska Wesleyan that actually is 0-2 in the conference, but they did win a duel at St. John's. So some quality matches outside of American Rivers Conference action, but Central 2-0 on the wrestling side. They took care of business against Nebraska Wesleyan, beat Coe by 18-17. And that would have been a fun one to be at, but I still think Wartburg, Dubuque, and Loris are in a bit of a league of their own right now. Central might be with them, and we don't really know about Coe. Wartburg's still as good as they always have been. They're 2-0. Beat Simpson 50-0, beat Nebraska Wesleyan 54-0. And haven't lost an individual match in those ones. University of Dubuque, they're 1-0. They won 43-10 over Simpson. Loris, of course, 1-0 as well. 155-0 over BV. And I think Simpson, Nebraska Wesleyan, BV towards the bottom. I think Luther is up with Central and Coe. In my opinion, that's about where they'll be. I think Simpson, Nebraska Wesleyan, BV will be the 3 bottom teams there in the conference. So the men's side, along with that, former men's wrestler for Wartburg College, Masoma Adine, has proven that the American Rivers Conference is that dominant of a wrestling conference. And he did lose yesterday to Iowa State's wrestler who's ranked 2nd in the country. That was his first loss since the NCAA tournament, I believe his sophomore year at Wartburg, where he lost in, I believe, the quarterfinals it was of the NCAA tournament. Since then, hasn't lost a single match until yesterday against Iowa State. He is ranked 4th in the country after taking down the number 4 guy from Pitt. Takedown in the last 2 seconds of that duel. Very fun to watch. But Masoma Adine, wrestling now for Iowa at 197 pounds, he is still that good at the D1 level.
Yeah, and obviously he was just wrestling a really good wrestler. He didn't look bad. I mean, I kind of like his scrappiness from what I've seen watching that duel meet, which that was just a fun duel meet. I mean, I would say it kind of stings for Iowa. First time they lost to Iowa State since 2004. Tom Brands has had the Cyclones number until yesterday. So looking ahead, that's always a fun duel meet, no matter what the records are, how teams are looking. We'll see what happens for both sides the rest of the year. But and then looking ahead for the women's wrestling schedule for this week, no real nothing really exciting going on. Wartburg will duel Augustana on Friday before everybody besides Loris and Nebraska Wesleyan heading to Storm Lake for the BV Open on Saturday.
Absolutely. Not too many duels for the women's wrestling side. Wartburg did beat Simpson earlier this year. Cornell beat Central 25-17 earlier this year. And then the other conference duel was BV versus Loris. BV took down Loris 24-20. I thought Loris was going to be one of the top teams with how good their men's program is. I thought they were going to come in and be one of the best teams in the conference. BV, we really don't know how good they are. It's so hard to tell with such a new sport how good some of these teams are. I think on the women's side, wrestling is going to be as dominant of a conference as the men's side is, as more schools get the sport. But it's great to see pretty much every school having women's wrestling in the ARC. Just gonna be awesome as it goes along.
Yep, and I think it goes on what people will say all the time about competition just breeding success, and that's exactly what you see in wrestling on the men's side, and I would expect, like you said, for that to happen on the women's side too.
Absolutely. So that's all we have for around the American Rivers Conference. D3 football bracket, we talked about that a little bit. D3 volleyball heading into the Elite Eight. Illinois Wesleyan getting upset there by Calvin. That was a huge upset on the volleyball side, but it's all we got right now. Next, Tyler is going to be joining us because we don't have Josh here. We can't do Josh's fun fact of the day. So now we are going to be doing a draft of Division III logos. Tyler will be joining us for this, along with me and Austin. And here we go. We are spinning a wheel to decide who goes first, and we will go clockwise once again. And the first pick goes to me. Of course it does. That is awesome. I love it.
Of course, always.
So, without further ado, we will be drafting 3 logos is all. We don't want this to go on forever. So we will take 3 logos in mind. No doubt in my mind who I was going with this first logo. It is the Banana Slug from UC Santa Cruz of the Coast to Coast Conference. UC Santa Cruz's logo is just fantastic. You can't go wrong with a banana slug being your mascot. So that is my number 1 pick.
Is their mascot, like on game days, is there somebody dressed around as a banana?
I believe so, yes. A banana
awesome.
slug
That's awesome.
is, yes, they do have a true mascot there. So we're going clockwise. That means Tyler, you are up next. Who are you taking with your first pick?
All right, so I've kind of got a theme here going. My first pick is going to be the Utica Pioneers from the Empire 8 Athletic Conference up in New York. And their logo is just a big old moose head. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, it stuck out to me when I was kind of looking through logos. It really jumped out at me. So,
All right,
It's not
Tyler.
a bad one.
With the Utica Pioneers,
yep.
the head of a moose. That good logo. That one is a good logo.
that
That's
is
a
a good
great
one.
pick to start off your drafting career here at the Beyond the ARC.
You might be
for
better
one-
than Josh
Thank
with
you.
one
Yeah,
pick.
absolutely.
Thank
But
you.
he's better at disc golf than Josh, if you didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
That is true.
That's
This
not
is the
that
guy-
hard to be better than Josh, but still, I mean.
This is the guy whose discs Josh lost, by the way. If you remember that episode way back, the first time we had Austin on. And yeah, he's much better than Josh at disc golfing. So, Austin, your first pick, who you going with?
All right, I'm going to stay more to the Midwest. I'm going to stay not in Iowa. I'm going to go out to Illinois in the CCIW, taking Wheaton. That's
Wheaton Thunder.
I love the
W.
thunder with the cloud on it and just the big W in the background. I just think that's a kind of a cool looking logo to have. I mean, and I feel like when you look at it, you know that's Wheaton as well.
Yes, it's not a copy of any logo. It's just very good. A good amount going on, but still a
not
very good
overdoing
logo. Exactly. So my number 2 pick, we're staying here in the American Rivers Conference. We are going with the Beaver of
Yes.
Buena Vista
It's a good
Just
pick.
a great logo. I believe it may be copied in other schools, but you don't see it really anywhere. You don't see a school being the Beavers anywhere. The yellow color scheme works very well with it. So I am going with BV first, maybe not the last, who knows, of the American Rivers Conference. Logos taken.
Real quick for you, is it you're talking about the beaver head?
The Beaver head, that is their main logo.
Because
now.
where I'm looking on the NCAA website, there's this logo. That's kind of good
that
looking
one
too.
I
Is it
believe
just an alternate?
That one it's just not updated. It was 2019, I believe that
one's kind
BV
of better than
got that logo. That one, it's too much going on for me, in my opinion, with the Beaver. They got the BVU below it. Dark blue, harder to see. I like the current yellow one that they wear on their football helmets and just around pretty much everywhere. Their only real logo now. Tyler, you're up next. What's your second pick?
All right, so for my second pick, I am going to Texas, to the Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference with the University of St. Thomas Houston, whose mascot is Lenny the Lion, and their main logo is a big old lion's head. And I really, I don't know, I thought it was a good rendering of a lion. I know lions get used a lot, but this one really stuck out to me as kind of different from the rest, and I like that.
I do like that logo. Looking over at it, reminds me a lot of Linn-Mar at the high school here in Iowa. I think this one's just a little bit cleaner. There's a little, not quite as much going on with the mane, but the face a little more detailed. I really like that one. I think that's a great pick. Austin, your second pick. What you going with?
All right. I feel like with my background and everything, it would be not right if I didn't take our very own SC was the lightning bolt pick. It was this pick. I'm going to take the Simpson College logo.
The Simpson College logo.
Not the elephant, but just the SC was the lightning bolt. That edition that happened not too long ago, the rebranding was the lightning bolt. I just think it's a clean look, and you can put it on a lot of different things, and it looks good.
Absolutely. The SC logo, another one that pretty new, not too much of a change from past years, or not too much of a change from the old logo with just the SC, but yes, definitely a good logo there. Now with my third pick, I got my top three, so I'm happy about that. You guys did not take any of mine, but we're going up to New England and the NESCAC, and we are going to take the Jumbos of Tufts. A big elephant, a nice blue elephant, the Tufts logo. Fantastic logo. You don't see an elephant as the logo, and they're the Jumbos. They're not even the elephants, but Tufts. Fantastic logo out there in New England. That's my third and final pick. So I got UC Santa Cruz, BV, and Tufts. Tyler, you have Utica and St. Thomas Houston. What's your third pick?
You know, you had me nervous there for a minute. My third pick is also from the NESCAC. I'm going very similar lines with the Amherst Mammoths.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's again, you don't see mammoths very often. I really liked it. I especially liked, those tusks that kind of go all the way up and over the back. Very impressive looking logo that I found.
Yeah, I like the 2D, the two-dimensional aspect of the Amherst logo. It kind of reminds me of in the movie Inside Out when they go into the two-dimensional realm there.
Oh,
yeah,
And
that makes sense.
that's what that reminds me of. So, yeah, Amherst, a good logo. Austin, you have your third and final pick. What are you going with?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bethany Lutheran's Viking. I kind of like it. It's different than some Vikings than what we'll see, but I just kind of like it. It's kind of a nice little Viking with the red and gray on it with their school colors. So that's my third pick.
Yeah, I like it when a team has a pretty common name, but they go different with the logo. They could have just done the Minnesota Vikings logo that a lot of teams do, but they went with the new improved logo. So yeah, good logo there. Three good draft teams in my opinion. Austin getting Wheaton, Simpson, and Bethany Lutheran there to close it out. You guys can vote in the comments who your guys' favorite team is. Look at all those logos and figure out who won this draft. I personally love my team. I think we got some very unique logos.
They're across the country, too.
Across the country, yep. I have a few more on my board. Salisbury was going to be my next pick, which is just a nice two-footed muscular bird that's just walking like he
Yeah,
has somewhere to
You
be.
know,
It's
my next
fantastic.
pick, if we had one, was going to be John Hopkins.
Johns Hopkins, that's a good one
Hopkins
as
is up there.
well.
That was a good one, yeah.
Yep. But that's all we have for our draft here today, and that's all we have for this episode of the Beyond the ARC podcast. But for now,
I'm Austin.
I'm Tyler.
and I'm Rob, and that's how you do a podcast
The
D3 way.
Beyond the ARC is an independent podcast and is not affiliated with or endorsed by the American Rivers Conference.